Sydney's infamous Annandale Hotel. We're here tonight for the debut album launch of Sydney political band Crash Through, and they're used to playing to small audiences. But this is no story about music. Meet PhD student Richard Schweizer. He plays bass guitar for Crash Through, but for the past 7 years, Richard has been facing a daily battle on two fronts. Richard is one of 200,000 Australians around the country facing the horrors of schizophrenia.
Yes, it was the worst day of my life.
Richard is highly gifted both academically and artistically, but it was when a musical influence of Richard's became a frightening obsession that Richard realised something was amiss.
So for me, I love Bob Dylan. I was reading a magazine about him, and then this thought entered my mind. It said, kill Bob Dylan. And I was very upset by that because, you know, he's my hero. And I don't know where that thought came from, but I was very upset by it.
Are they persuasive?
Yes.
But tragically, Richard says it's the constant discrimination from the voices outside that has a greater effect.
Because it scares people, I'm going to say this again because it's important. If you say to someone that you're schizophrenic, their first thought will be that you have multiple personalities. That is not true. That is not what schizophrenia is.
Mental health experts agree.
Now, if that was a soldier in a trench holding the enemy at bay for 5 or 6 days, they'd get every medal that you could possibly give. What people with schizophrenia are going through is exactly that. They're fighting the enemy from the trench for 5 or 6 days, and then they get handcuffed, put in the back of a paddy wagon, taken off. 4 nurses sit on them and give them a jab in the backside.
It's difficult. There are 2 aspects to it, I guess. One, mental illness, and particularly schizophrenia, has enormous negative perception in the media and in the public. It's enormously stigmatised.
Yeah.
And it's stigmatised generally because there is a small percentage of people who have the condition who may be dangerous or will behave in a very antisocial or peculiar or uncomfortable way, and that puts people offside. And of course the media will publicise the dramatic events of somebody who might kill, believes he hears voices, and instructing him to maim.
Richard says that without his family he'd be on the streets, but he fears that vulnerable youth of today without such support may turn to other means, such as drug taking.
The resin is much greater, the heads are much more, so you've got a much more potent set of chemicals in what's available now.
I remember there was one day I was playing with a musician, and you know we had a joint, and the next morning I woke up with these incredibly vivid dreams, and these vivid dreams came to be a kind of symptom or an experience that I had before I got medicated. So, did the marijuana cause a psychosis? I don't think so. I think I had a predisposition towards it. But it was like it fired the starting gun.
The problem that everybody's got, especially kids who have got to try things out, is that when you have a joint, you don't know if you've got that vulnerability or not. So you're playing Russian roulette.
Richard's family yearns for greater understanding of just how tragic a diagnosis of schizophrenia can be.
And I know it might sound excessive, but there isn't a day, there isn't an hour, there isn't a moment in your life when you don't think about it. There isn't a second almost where Sonia and I don't think about Richard and his condition and how is he coping and how we can deal with it. It's the last thing you think about at night, it's the first thing you think about in the morning. You can't do anything about it, you can't really alter that for him, but it becomes part of your being, like breathing. But it's a lot more uncomfortable.
Believe it or not, I was attending the New South Wales Attorney General's office for a summer internship which was very hard to get, and I'd managed to get it because of my studies and my high marks. And I remember on the first day I was late by an hour, which was very silly. And but I remember sitting in the room talking to this fellow from the Attorney General's office, and I saw a reflection off a building, and I kept thinking, that reflection is a person with a gun. And then a part of me would say, no, it's not, it's just a reflection. So after that, I went to a counsellor, and the counsellor said to me, talk to your parents, talk to your mum. And I did. And so the next day I saw a doctor, and I was able to talk about the strange thoughts that I was having and my emotional state.
Richard said when he got schizophrenia, it was the day he lost his dreams. He hopes that doctors will find a cure, but above all else, he hopes society will find compassion.
They say like it's a schizophrenic album because it has a whole lot of different kind of songs. And I just want to say, look, that's not what schizophrenia is, and you probably shouldn't talk about it like that anyway.
At best he was an eccentric. Well, isn't that an interesting way I was about to express that? At best he was an eccentric, at worst he had schizophrenia. So,
there it is.
The stigma is there, alive and well.
Well, I tell you, when you don't know what thoughts are your own thoughts and what thoughts are someone else's, it's I just can't explain it. It's a horrible experience to lose one's mind.